Hey, what's going on, guys? James here bringing another YouTube video, and this one is going to be another edition of the Original Universe Reaction Series. And again, it's really close to when I record episodes 3 and 4, but I've just really been enjoying looking back at this, and I really want to keep going with the reactions to what I did in the past. So we're going to do that, and let's go ahead and get into... Or I guess before we get into the third episode of Raw, which is the go-home show for Raw to Extreme Rules. This is the third episode that Tyson booked and that I showed off for Raw. And yeah, with that being said, let's look at it. Here we go. Oh, it's also called Triple Threat and Fatal 4-Way. And you'll see why once the main event's announced. But yeah, here we go.
It's the go-home show to Extreme Rules.
Okay.
Extreme Rules is a pay-per-view.
We're good.
That is shared by both Raw and SmackDown. And then after the show, I want all of you guys to let me know whose matches on the show were better. The pay-per-view matches that I booked, or the pay-per-view matches that Tyson booked.
You know, all things considered, that is still a really cool concept. Like, that really is a cool concept that I really wish I could roll with, but it's just kind of impossible to roll with that if you don't have any sort of, like, consistent viewer base built up. Because then, like, there's no point in asking for people to vote if there's no one actually watching the episodes and watching them in full to see, okay, what was actually better in their minds. So, yeah. Really cool concept. Not something I've ever been able to fully push for, though.
But anyway, so this is Tyson's third Raw show. And this is the way he booked it. Fandango
Doing a gimmick.
versus R-Truth. Tyson Kidd and Cesaro with Natalya versus Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and Big E. The New Day.
Give away your money match for free.
Rusev versus Alex Reign. Because Alex wants to prove himself. And he went to the GM of Raw, said he wanted to prove himself. And the GM gave him Rusev.
I got nothing bad
in
to
a
say about
one-on-one
that one.
match. And now, two of the men that will be fighting for Seth Rollins' WWE Championship at Extreme Rules, John Cena and Roman Reigns, go one-on-one.
I gotta pause it on that one. So, like, I don't have anything bad to say about Alex and Rusev. That's fine. And that was actually, to talk about that one for a little bit, that was actually one of the first actual kind of, like, storylines that Tyson built up himself. Instead of just kind of, like, booking for the sake of booking, for Rusev and Alex Reign there, he actually did want to roll with the story of taking this creative character of mine with Alex, and he wanted to roll with him. Like, he wanted to, like, build him up as a rookie and have him try and just keep working his way forward and just trying to see what he can do, improve himself. And that was the story he wanted to tell with him. It's something overall kind of basic with it, but, like, yeah, it's fine, and that's really cool. We didn't really have that go anywhere, but that worked. The concept of it's really cool, and it was more because of my own decision that he didn't get to roll with it. So yeah, no problem there. But Cena and Reigns, the match itself is fine, but what I said with both guys getting the shot at Extreme Rules, that was more for both Tyson and I. It's like, oh, well, Cena beat Seth. He should get a match. When it's like, well, yes, he did beat the champion, but one win against the champion normally does not mean you should immediately be given a title shot. Like, come on now. It should push you into contention and top contention, but Roman had, I think, been undefeated at this point. Yeah, like, Roman had been, like, undefeated at this point, and he had wins over Ambrose, and Ambrose, that's who we beat in the second episode. He would beat Cena here. First episode, who did he face? Why is it leaving me? Oh, Rusev. He got a win. He got a big win over, not necessarily a big win, but he got a good win over Rusev, over Ambrose, and then he got a win over Cena here. So the match is fine, but I shouldn't. Neither one of us should have allowed Cena to get a shot at Seth right away just because of the one win. It should have been a singles match with Rusev and Reigns. What? With Roman and Seth, whatever. So announce the main event past me.
And in the main event, we have the WWE and United States Champion going one-on-one with his former friend and now rival, Dean Ambrose. If Rollins
Hang on.
wins, the match at Extreme Rules remains a triple threat. But if Ambrose wins, it becomes a fatal four-way.
Yeah, and I've talked about it before. The whole point of this match, which the match itself is fine, but the whole point of it was, like, throughout all the build-up, originally, I know Tyson wanted to have, like, a Shield triple threat for the first pay-per-view, which, by the way, this is early 2016 still, so the fact that Tyson at that point wanted a Shield triple threat, which was well before WWE would actually go with the Shield triple threat, it's kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, that's what he wanted, but we both figured at the time, again, only really knowing WWE, at the time he only knew WWE, and like I said in the previous reaction video, I knew WWE and a little bit of TNA, so we weren't the most knowledgeable about actually booking things. So yeah, and we figured, okay, Cena got a win over Rollins, so he's in top contention. Reigns has been looking really good, so he's up there. And Tyson, of course, has always been a massive fan of Ambrose, so yeah, he wanted Ambrose versus Rollins in some way, and we got the match here, but because, just again, like I said, whether it's me playing the matches or simulating or letting the AI, watching the match with the AI competing, whatever, no matter what, Ambrose just couldn't win when he was on Raw, and we just couldn't get him into the title match. And I still wouldn't have had him in the... I wouldn't have done it that way. Like, the match overall is fine. Him getting this one-on-one shot with Rollins is fine. But I wouldn't have had it be like, okay, so if Ambrose wins, he's added to the main event of Extreme Rules. If anything, I would have tried to do something where, because Ambrose had no success, let's try and have him back away from the world title scene, because like he's had no success. So let's have him try and go for the U.S. title. And then focus primarily at the start with Roman versus Seth in the main event. That's what I would have done.
You know, that's the way that Tyson booked his show. Not a bad one. But
yeah, like, overall, the card's fine.
Now, the match that I'm going to play...
I
don't know.
It's tough. I probably wouldn't do Ken Cesaro versus Woody, or against New Day. I wouldn't do that either.
I'll play the
but
main event, but
it's fine overall. You can still roll with that, and you can at least make an excuse that, like, oh, whoever wins, the manager helped them win or something like that. The managers got involved. So then you just have a match where, like, there's no interference, no managers or anything. That's something you can
they
do.
win. So, I mean, they beat the champs. They beat the champions. I guess that kind of makes them the number one contenders. But they're also a team that's doing pretty well. So, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out later. Alex Reign and Rusev.
But yeah, I would not have given them the title match.
Will Alex be able to prove himself? Or will Rusev, the Bulgarian brute, show that he is unstoppable? And Rusev won.
That's the right call, too. Whether I was playing it or not, that's the right call. Having Rusev beat the rookie and have the rookie fail early on in his attempts to prove himself, that's just the better way to go. Have him keep failing until the moments where he eventually overcomes it and wins. It's just a natural babyface underdog story to tell. And I remember this one was, I let the AI do it entirely. And I remember the match at the time being good. I don't know if I'll still feel that way, but I remember the match being good at the time.
Dean Ambrose.
So yeah. But I mean, yeah, not a whole lot else to say, I guess. All right, so yeah, it's interesting. And Seth Rollins, at this point, thinking about it, in the previous episode, he would have just taken a loss to the rookie TIs. Again, I would. I probably wouldn't have even booked that match, but if I did, I definitely would not have had TIs win. I definitely think it's like you can have people debut right away and beat a top level guy, but like the way we did it with TIs and Seth, I definitely would not have done it. If the match had to happen, I definitely would have had TIs booking it more of a realistic style match. I definitely would have had TIs look really good, but have Seth just look better and win. I think it says more if they can.
And let's start the match.
Oh, I just realized it was on Epic. Maybe that's why the match ended up being kind of good. It was on Epic.
Starts off with a kick.
I don't remember it being putting on Epic, but maybe I did.
Ambrose getting a quick advantage.
Either way.
The champ. Oh, a spine buster. And you know, guys.
Whereas I will say as well, like I do think as a whole, I would prefer this match to TS versus Rollins, because like at least people know who Dean Ambrose is, and like this is Dean's time to, even if like he doesn't get a shot at Extreme Rules, it's his time to turn things around, and a winner of Seth Rollins would do that,
Now I pretty much already got my show figured out, or not my show, but I pretty much got my pay-per-view card set up for Extreme Rules. But Tyson,
no,
he hasn't got his full thing set up, so it could be very.
Oh my god, me talking about like.
But what I want from you guys is
each show having 3 matches on the card and like
Tyson and I are gonna
like their own brand matches on the card. Like that's no. It doesn't matter what brand has more matches on the card. Like have the like if you're gonna book a pay-per-view, again, this is something I've recently started thinking about a lot more, especially with the series I just actually started uploading on the wrestling channel, which is a long-running continuous universe where I'm running with a prequel to that. So for that series, I want to start in SVR 11 and carry into every single universe mode. And because there's actually someone on YouTube who's already beat me to that idea, starting a little prequel in SVR 09 and SVR 2010 for that series. So,
between the two of us.
And I was thinking about, okay, how exactly do you want to structure the WrestleMania card for that series? And this is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And for pay-per-views, I'm definitely more in the camp now where I definitely prefer a smaller pay-per-view card where every match feels pay-per-view worthy, as opposed to just getting as many people on the card as possible. Which is also why I don't like 2-night pay-per-views. Because if you're having a pay-per-view that's split into 2 nights, more than likely you have a bunch of matches that don't actually feel worthy of being on a pay-per-view. Like I know WWE only really does it with the WrestleMania, but look back at like I think they've done it 2 years in a row now. By the way, some of these things I'm talking about WWE, I haven't watched WWE since 2019, so. A lot of things I'm just like, going by what I've heard and what I've seen in like short clips and stuff on like Twitter and YouTube and stuff. So yeah, but like look back at those cards and tell me like, okay, does everything you're looking at actually feel worthy of being on WrestleMania? Because I know with like the super long shows that they did in one night, not everything felt worthy, and you could definitely tell that they were just booking matches for the sake of booking matches and getting people on the WrestleMania card to give them the WrestleMania payday. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nice because again, people are getting that big payday from being on WrestleMania, but for the sake of the pay-per-view, it's like it doesn't really work.
For all you viewers watching,
And I don't think it's a good idea for like universe modes where like the payday is not an issue anyway. You're not actually paying the people to be on the shows.
But I want all you
And that's not like taking a shot at any universe creator in general. I don't like the idea. I do understand and have an appreciation for pay-per-views being on Saturdays as opposed to Sundays, because for majority of people, honestly, Saturday is just a better day to have it. So you don't have to like stay up super late on a Sunday and then immediately wake up with barely any sleep the next day and go to work. Because a lot of people do have the weekends off. Like a lot of jobs do that. Unless you're places I've worked, and then like then it's more the place is kind of shitty about giving days off. I mean, I didn't have that much of an issue. I pretty much had the same days off the 2 years I worked at the place I did first, but, you know, I'm just kind of lucky. And I also didn't take no for an answer. It's like, hell no. I see some of these people with set days off. You better give me set days off. So, yeah. Sometimes you just have to force an issue, too. But anyway, that's a conversation for a different time. But yeah, like, overall pay-per-views, I definitely prefer having a smaller card, but every match feels pay-per-view worthy. Because at the end of the day, just as long as the pay-per-view is still bigger than like a normal episode of Raw or SmackDown or AEW, Dynamite, or whatever show you're running, just as long as the pay-per-view is still bigger, then that's all that really matters. And compare it to my own booking in the past, it's like, let's look at, in the original universe, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view card I booked. That was all me, essentially, minus a couple of matches that Tyson technically would have had input for before he was removed from the series originally. That show, all in all, was 12 matches. 12. That's ridiculous. 'Cause especially knowing that looking back, you know, most of those matches didn't actually have a reason to happen, and they didn't have build-up at all. It's like, why did I have T.I.'s defend his U.S. title at Money in the Bank when he had just defended it twice within the same month and had no other challengers at the moment? Because I felt I needed to have the U.S. title defended at a pay-per-view? No, you don't have to do that. At least in the sense of, like, say, on SmackDown with the Intercontinental title at the time, I had built up, because it was a triple threat for that show. It was a triple threat that I wanted to be more like a handicap match, where Batista and Sheamus, who had started being allies and teaming up together, were taking on Ryback in a triple threat for the Intercontinental title. And while it was a triple threat, all that mattered to either one of them was that they would get one of them walked out with the belt. And it was cool. I liked that, especially since I rolled with it and actually had that happen, and they stayed a team and they didn't have dissension or anything. So that was cool. And I'll get more to that when I get to talk about Money in the Bank. But anyway, yeah, that's where I sat on that one. And I just, yeah.
Losing script again. Now here we go. Ambrose has got Rollins. Puts him on the ropes.
But yeah, that's where I sat on that one, and that's all I can say for the most part, to be completely honest. Yeah, like, that match I had built up overall, so it was fine. Wasn't the best build-up, but it worked. Jesus. But stuff like the U.S. title match had no build-up, and T.I. had already defended the belt twice in the month anyway, so he had no challenges at that point. Like, in all honesty, if I was going to do anything, I should have had probably T.I.'s face Seth, which I think is still too early for him, but like based on everything that had happened at the time in the original universe, there was one guy that had enough build up to face Seth, had already beaten Seth as well, and that was the then U.S. champion T.I.'s.
Big punches.
And obviously Seth would have got the win with the world title on the line. Absolutely.
Rollins going up top.
Like, we would not have put the world title on a rookie in one of our creations that early. No. Hell no. But based on the build-up, he should have got the match.
Ambrose counter.
And again, we'll talk about that more when we get to it.
1, 2. Oh, Rollins.
As I have not been paying attention to the match at all. Just kind of been talking.
Only a 1.
But back to this match. I mean, like I said, it was fine overall. Nothing wrong with it, and I like the idea of the match. It is one of those things where
Tracking suplex.
I wish I wouldn't have said and put the implication that...
What is
No, because Tyson was the one that put the implication on it, actually. This was his idea entirely.
Ambrose counter.
Yeah.
To the back. Oh.
Because I didn't help Tyson book it all at this point. When he was booking the original universe, that was just all his ideas entirely.
Blocks that one. And now
Which he had good ideas, absolutely, but yeah, this one he was so dead set on having Seth and Dean, or having Dean in that world title match at Extreme Rules, that I definitely think it did kind of harm what we were going for a little bit. So, I don't know.
And again, there's this KO clutch, driving the knee into the back.
Like,
For the third
the match is
time.
fine, but it shouldn't. If Dean won, he should not have gotten to the world title match.
Can't make Rollins tap out.
Not when he had no other success prior to this.
Counters with a kick. Oh,
Like, looking back on it, it really should have been a one-on-one between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins at Extreme Rules. And then from there, you can roll with either
right to the
Victor.
DDT.
If you have Roman win, he's the one that had all the momentum going into the pay-per-view anyway. So he's the logical choice based on booking and statistics. But you could always have Seth win and overcome Roman and roll with that there.
Rollins takes the advantage right back.
If you wanted Rollins to be more of a chicken shit heel, you could have outside interference, you could have all sorts of stuff like that. And it would have been fine.
Oh, Ambrose counters. With the step
But like I said, we'll get to Extreme Rules more when it happens.
Oh, Schoolboy. Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra.
Man, me saying the Avada Kedavra wrong is
Rollins with the Avada Kedavra.
awful.
It's not going to put Ambrose away. It's not going to end Ambrose's hopes. No, it doesn't. Now,
And the fact that no one calls that the Avada Kedavra at all is also awful.
And Ambrose's hopes.
It's like, oh my god, Rollins with a super kick. It's like, he has a name for it. Just because he didn't go to the corner and do this anymore doesn't mean it's not the Avada Kedavra.
Just like that.
Like, people still, I guess to be fair, only The Miz calls his backbreaker, neckbreaker the reality check. No one else, not even Michael Cole called it that. So, never mind. Only Miz still called it the reality check.
Of getting into the main event of Extreme Rules to make it a fatal
Which, by the
four-way
way,
for the title.
I really like the reality check. Both versions of it.
See here, Ambrose tried to take advantage. Rollins, but he missed.
But anyway, yeah, whatever.
Rollins out of nowhere hit.
That was also a weird thing with the game at the time, where, like, it was only last gen that they did it, but if someone, like, kicked out of a pin, it wouldn't let the person who kicked out, like, get the upper hand once they got up. And it, if there's, like, an invisible wall, and the AI would always go right into a finish.
Quickly go over.
And it was like the other AI or you couldn't reverse it. And it's just super weird.
I mean, Fandango beat our truth.
But yeah, I'm just going to pause it and look at it, you know. Fandango picked up a win over R-Truth. Kid and Cesaro beat the New Day. Rusev beat the rookie Alex Rain. Seth Rollins beat Dean Ambrose, keeping him out of the world title scene. And what else happened again? Oh, and Roman Reigns beat John Cena. So yeah. Again, like, if anything, and this also goes to Extreme Rules, where I had, like, a number one contenders for the U.S. title match between T.I.C. and Dean Ambrose. If anything, I guess at that point, probably should have pushed that to be Cena versus Ambrose. Both guys that had, well, I guess in a way, we still could have had, Cena did legitimately beat Seth, so I guess you still could have had him in the background of the world title scene. So, I don't know, I'll think more on it. But yeah, like, the show's not bad overall. Again, like, I don't think any of the, okay, well, I do think some of the booking we did at the time was bad, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But so far early on, like I said before, we definitely could have started off very, like, a lot worse than we did, and I don't think the cards were terrible. Some of the booking was absolutely questionable, and some of the things that we ended up doing in execution were bad. But ideas on paper, they were good in theory. And that's where I'll leave it there. Like having the opener between Fondog and R-Truth, neither guy had been shown yet, so that's a cool little thing for the people at the time. And then, you know, what was before them? Was it the tag match? Yeah, it was the tag match. So, you know, Kid Cesaro, New Day, again, I wouldn't have this match right away. I would have given that to probably whoever won between... Lucha Dragons beat Liga Nation, so probably would have done Kid Cesaro versus Lucha Dragons. And then if you wanted to do that, you could have the title match. Or maybe build... do a one-on-one with someone from Kid Cesaro against either Sin Cara or Kalisto, and then have the tag team number one contenders match on the pay-per-view. Or, yeah, because I didn't have any teams on SmackDown who were going for the tag titles yet. I had a tag team feud, obviously. We'll get to that when we get to the next SmackDown. But I didn't have anyone go for the tag titles yet, so could have done that. One-on-one on this show between Ken Cesaro and Lucha Dragons, and then have the tag match, number one contenders, Extreme Rules. And then the winner could build towards facing New Day on the next show. Again, Rusev Reign is fine. Reigns beating Cena is fine, and then Seth beating Dean is fine. So yeah, not bad. Definitely could have been better, though. And everything else we'll get to when we get to it, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.